All right, we're back. Dynasty Trades in 5. I'm Clay.
I'm Shane. Can you dig it?
I'm Scott. Shane took my opening tagline, so let's go.
Yeah. Shots
If
fired.
anyone knows what movie that's from, please post it in the comments. Classic, anyway.
Please do. Yeah, so we're talking Stefon Diggs tonight. And Shane referenced comments. If you enjoy the show, please comment on this one, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. But yeah, Shane, you're going to be going first. We got Stefon Diggs tonight. Scott and I we're talking last night after we got off, and it's like, who should we pick? Where you're looking at your roster, they're a good player, but it's like, what do I do with this person? Stefon Diggs kind of stuck out as that type of player. It's, you don't necessarily feel great that you're looking down at him on your roster. He's a great player, but what are we doing with him? You getting rid of him?
I don't think I'd call him a great player. He's the wide receiver 13 in DLF. He is 28 years old, although he just turned 28. So next season will be his 29-year-old age season in November. He's wide receiver 2-ish range for me. I wouldn't draft him at wide receiver 13 in a startup because he's 28. And if I'm going to be drafting anyone at wide receiver 13 over him, it'd be Devonta Smith, Elijah Moore. I think I might go even Michael Pittman. Diggs has just never carried the value that his production I guess warrants. And he's never going to. Wide receiver 13 is a little pricey for me. Problem with Diggs is if you're going to make trades for him, you're not going to get what you think is equal value. You're never going to get it. You weren't getting it when he was putting up 20 points last year. You weren't getting it 5 years ago, 4 years ago when he was putting up 17 points. People think he's a lot more inconsistent than he really is. What he is he's a consistent wide receiver 2 who has some really nice spike weeks. So if you can find someone that's going to pay that price for you, sure. What I might end up doing though, because like you said, you're kind of bleh on him. I think the community's kind of bleh on him. So I might try to get him. I might try to buy him. I trade maybe see if I could get Calvin Ridley in a third and get some Diggs.
Yeah, I think with Diggs, people are kind of clouded right now in terms of what to do with him because last year, he was dominant, more than 20 points per game. This year dropped back to just under, it was around 16 points per game this year. So he took a big drop off, 16.8 to be exact. The good thing is, if you look at it, he's tied to the Bills. Josh Allen was 4th in the league in pass attempts. That's not going to stop. So you can count on that. So situation, good, checked. Shane already talked about his age. Listen, we've seen receivers that kind of hit this age and the value cliff drops off, except for the guys that are tied to these elite quarterbacks. So you've seen Devontae Adams, you've seen Keenan Allen, also tied to guys that are high volume throwers in offenses where they funnel a lot of the targets their way. So they've been able to sustain some value. Now, is Diggs past the point where you sell him for what the production is that you could actually get? Probably. But that's true with pretty much every one of these receivers that you're asking for that are in this 28, 29, 30-year-old range. Like the trade value, not necessarily the total value, but what you want out of the trade value is different. Obviously, people go, well, can I pivot off of Diggs for a receiver that's just as good that's 6 years younger? Well, no one's going to make that deal, even though you're sitting there going, well, hey, they're scoring the same number of points per game, but why would somebody make that kind of trade? Like, why would you trade, T. Higgins for Diggs at this point, right now where we stand, right? That's the kind of deal where people just expect, looking at ADP, hey, I can get T. Higgins maybe in a second for Diggs. And it's like, no, that's probably not how it's going to work, especially in the offseason. I think some good signs with Diggs are, his average depth of target actually went up this year, almost over more than 1 yard this season. So that's good. He had 165 targets this year. So it's not like he's going down in terms of market share. And I don't see that stopping, regardless of Gabe Davis, whether they bring Cole Beasley back. I think he's still going to command 25% market share. So he's still, I think, reliable. And maybe we get to the peak point now where he's more of a buy than a sell. But I don't want to buy him like we're talking. I don't want to buy him by giving up these guys that are younger than him that basically have done what he did this year already in their careers. That doesn't make sense. But draft picks, again, he's one of those guys that before you draft a receiver in this class, consider paying for Diggs. If you get 2 or 3 peak years, I'll buy 160 targets. That's going to give me at least 15 points per game, period, if the guy has any talent, and we know Diggs does.
160 targets for the next 2 years sounds good from Josh Allen, right? It's quality of the targets too. I mean, 160 targets from Josh Allen versus 170 targets from Jalen Hurts. Which would you rather have? You'd probably go with the Josh Allen ones, even if it decreases some to 150. They're still Josh Allen targets, and we see what those look like.
So are you giving up the 104 in 2022 right now for Stefon Diggs?
I am.
Yeah.
You giving up the 10? You giving up the 102?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 102 we've talked about, that's a good price to pay for Higgins, good price to pay for Lamb. I wouldn't hate it if you paid for Diggs, especially if you're looking at your roster and you're saying, man, I really want to draft Garrett Wilson, or I really want to draft Treylon Burks. But just understand you're probably giving away a lot of positional leverage there, not because Diggs isn't better than one of those receivers, but from a market standpoint, probably a running back or quarterback's going to be better at the time. So I'd rather not have to give that pick up, if that makes sense. But it's a gamble. When the tiers shake out, you may be sitting there on the clock going, man, I don't know who to take at the 102. I would love to trade back. Nobody's going to trade back with me. So I have to make a pick, and I really don't want to draft, this quarterback or this running back. You know what I mean? Then you're forced into it, and you wish you would get offered the value of a guy like Diggs at the time. So it is a risk, but I'm kind of with Shane. If it's 102, I'm willing to make the bet and just keep the flexibility of the pick for at least a couple more months.
What do you need on top of a random 23 first to give away Diggs? Name a player plus a 23 first, and you would give away Diggs.
Kind of too easy to say another wide receiver, right?
Well, yeah. That just to give people a base for comparison here. Go for it.
How about Travis Etienne? You think I could get Travis Etienne in a 2023 third?
Not a chance.
Not for Diggs, really? No. Wow. Well, then I guess Jerry Jeudy's out too, huh? Would you move down? Would you accept Darnell Mooney in a first for Diggs?
That's a good one.
If there's somebody down in that wide receiver 3, 4, 5 range that you're super convicted on, but you do not have the stones to give up a first, kind of like we talk about all the time. If you can get a first for Mooney or Gabe Davis or, Brandon Cooks or those types, like you just auto sell, right? If you can get a first for those types, a lot of people aren't buying. So maybe that's a way where you go down that far. If you really like somebody, say it's Odell Beckham and a first for a Stefon Diggs. They're close to the same age, right? Like you could see a way where Beckham is 85% of what Diggs is, right? In a given year. I mean, that's in the range of outcomes. So if you're really convicted on Beckham, I think that's how you go and buy him.
Would you like Stefon Diggs or Juju in a 23 first?
Juju in the 23 first. Juju's just enough. Yep. He's just enough. Like he feels like the line of demarcation.
What about Allen Robinson in the 23 first?
No.
I would do that. Scott, you do that?
Yeah, I think all those guys we just mentioned, Robinson, Beckham, Cooks, Juju, you got to have some conviction on that receiver. But if you think they could bounce back, it's in the range of outcomes. Any of those guys we mentioned could give you 15 points per game, right? It's in the range of outcomes. They may have to have a good landing spot, but just imagine if you get close to Diggs with that receiver, you basically just stole a first.
Yeah. But are you getting close to that receiver? So it's like you said, you have to be convicted on it. Allen Robinson for me would be a hard pass.
I just feel if you're in one of these leagues where you can get 3 or 4 of those picks and it's a 12-team league, you're going to be sitting in the driver's seat next year. You're going to be sitting in the driver's seat. You're going to, even if the picks end up being picks you don't want to make, you still control the draft. That's the goal here.